Good morning. I am discussing over various soft skills related to people skill. In the last few weeks, I have discussed about various others, but now I am focusing on the people skill. The last one that I discussed was diplomacy. Now let us see what next. Dispute resolution. This is a skill you will find that it's a very special skill of somebody who can resolve the disputes. If you are resolving a dispute, that means you are not one of the player in creation of the dispute. That is first thing. If suppose there is a fight with you and somebody else, fight means I am not talking about physical, I am talking about the oral fights, I am talking about the ideological fights, I am talking about your rights oriented fights or patent rights fights, whatever. If you are not a party in it, then you have a strong people skill in solving this or resolving this disputes. But if you are one of the parties, then you cannot, because one of the party is biased. You may be right or you may be wrong. If you are right, let somebody resolve this dispute. Dispute resolution is whenever there are between two individuals or two parties or two groups, there are differences in something. It may be opinion, it may be ideology, it may be political ideologies, it may be your business, it may be opportunities. Your people skill is those skill in which you are now going to communicate with both the persons, both the groups, and then trying to bring them both to a platform in which both of them are now going to listen to you, and you rationalize the situation. By rationalizing the situation, you bring it to a level where there comes to a compromise. This is a very strong people skill. In earlier days, what used to happen in the villages, Indian villages, whenever there used to be a dispute between two families, two property owners, then the disputes were brought to the common place in the community level, and there used to be one leader. It can be sarpanch, it can be panchayat leaders, it can be a leader of the herds or the village, and then he, along with many other experts, used to review both sides and then gave a very rational judgment, and by which both are going to come to a level in which it's some win, some lose. And if you find that there is something like, say, when one group is grossly wrong, then in that dispute resolution, the person who is grossly wrong is also told that you are grossly wrong, the other party is saying is right. But this is a very, very strong people skill. Though there are certain protocols, there are certain rules, there are certain decorums, and it's not everything out of the hat. It is based on facts, figures, context, situations, future implications, past occurrences. Based on all these things, this dispute resolution comes into play. Our legal system is, to a certain extent, or to a great extent rather, is a dispute resolver, and when they do it based on facts. And the facts that they get, and then when the facts are recorded, established, substantiated, then they take a decision. That decision which may be something very new, that decision which may not be a copy of others, it is only at that point of time the right decision. Maybe it can be challenged later, and then found that there had been something wrong in that dispute resolving. Then again reopened, rediscussed, more witnesses, more facts and figures, and ultimately a decision which originally was there may be discarded. That is why people go from lower court to the higher courts to the Supreme Courts, because they are looking for the right judgment. In the dispute resolution as a people skill, it has to be very, very honest. The system has to be honest. Now, if you think that the people skill you have in terms of dispute resolving, then you cannot be biased. It has to be honest, it has to be fair, it has to be transparent, and it has to be very clear. Another strong people skill is encouraging team members. See, when you are working on large projects or any ventures or any endeavors, hardly we do something alone. Think about a musician, an artist, vocalist. When he sings, he can sing alone. But the entire performance or rendition does not really reach that excellence quality unless there is somebody who is playing the percussions with it. Be it tabla, be it sitar, be it guitar, be it drums or whatever, be it flute or whatever. That means any activity that we do to reach that particular activity to the highest level of excellence, there are many other associates who are involved, who are helping, and they are basically they are adding to the whole quality. That means a team. I give an example of an artist, vocalist. Think about a salesperson. Every salesperson wants to go alone. The reason is he wants to take the credit of getting the sales done. But if you really look into it, as a company's viewpoint, you will find that salesperson has gone alone maybe because he cannot go with a group. But there had been several people who are working at the background. They are working day and night to provide facts, figures, technical literatures, brochures, marketing materials to this salesperson who is going maybe alone to a client to sell the product. But it's a total team who are working. Now you think if the person who has gone for sales and ultimately closed the deal and came back and says, oh, you all are nothing. In fact, I have done everything. I'll tell you, this is grossly wrong. Grossly wrong. Because he cannot do everything. If a person does it himself, that he designs the marketing brochure, he plans, he finds out the client, he develops the material, he creates a product, ultimately he launches himself and goes to the market, I have no issue. And then I am not really talking about the team, because alone, very, very unrealistic. When there are in our profession or the business, when we have a group work, in such case, encouraging team members is one of the very strong people skill, and which I have found is not very common. Not allow you. Then encouraging team members is very, very strong mechanism by which he will get it done. And I'll tell you, I've read a book on IBM's philosophy. I'm mentioning it because it's in the published document. The CEO who ensured one thing, that whoever is working at whichever level in this particular organization must be respected in whichever level they are. That means everybody's self-respect has to be maintained and sustained. It's a very strong encouragement to the team members. That means if you make a mistake, then you will be told what's a mistake, but you will not be ridiculed. It's not necessary that you make a mistake and immediately sack. Then in that case, every day you have to sack somebody and you have to hire somebody, which is impractical. Okay? So encouraging team members is a very strong people skill. If you encourage a team member, I can assure you, does not mean that you are putting somebody above you. No. It's only you are strengthening your own team. And everybody now falls for you to give you all possible supports and helps or tips and tricks by which you can go forward. So encouraging team members do that. Giving directions is to a certain extent like delegations, but there is a difference. With a difference, giving directions means you have to instruct what is to be done. In this case, one very strong point which you have to possess is this. If you are giving directions, first of all, it has to be very clear, very tangible, what you want somebody else to do whom you are directing. That means you should be first clear within your own mind what is expected out of this work. So number one is, first you know what is to be done, then you know who all can do it, then you know up to what extent it can be done, then you know what is the level of expectation from there, then you know what is the excellence level up to which you can meet, and then you know whom you have to tell at which point of time, rather whom you have to direct at which point of time, within what time frame, in what context, with what compensation. So giving direction is very, very difficult situation. Given an opportunity, anybody can say, I am directing. But the thing is, you then have to undergo a series of researches which are split second in your mind, that you have to immediately think about it. An example, suppose you want to direct somebody to get something from somewhere. Then you must know that what you are getting. Then you must know where is it available. Then you must know that who is supposed to go and in which mode he is supposed to go. Should he walk or should he cycle or should he take a car? That means you know everything, and then you know where it is available, and then you know what price he has to pay to get it for you, and then ultimately you have to tell him that within this time I need it, otherwise the purpose is lost. That means you have analyzed the entire scenario. So giving direction is not a very, it's not a very simple word said. It is a process which you comprehend first very quickly, and you know all facts and figures, and now you help the person whom you are giving directions so that he can successfully undertake your directions and ultimately become successful. I'll give one case. A person who gave directions to his subordinate saying that you go and communicate this particular point to other person, other department, and then when you are communicating this, you hand over this file to him and get his opinion on the file noted. Very simple business activity, we do it every day in the administration. Case 1, the person who is instructed, he is or directed, he is told exactly where the person will be available, at what time he will be available, what is the actual task this person has to do after reaching there, how does he go, when does he come back, what is the final result that I am expecting if I am giving a directions. Okay? Everything is fine. That gentleman goes to the person whom he has been sent to, then he finds he is not there. Very obvious reaction is that the person will wait for some time and then ultimately come back because the person is not there, and reports to you saying that I went there, I waited for 1 hour, the person was not there, and so I could not get it done, so this is my file back. It's very simple, but the actual direction is this: you go there, meet the person. If you don't find the person, then find out who is the next person authorized to deal with this file. This is a very clear direction. There is a difference. The first direction is you go and give this file to a person and get his feedback and come back. Good. If the person is not available, then what he should do? He should be told. And then if that person is also not available, then when both of these persons are likely to be available, when should he go next? All these inputs he has to bring back before he comes and surrenders saying that nobody was available. This is the right direction. It makes a lot of difference, I will tell you. It is something like, if you send somebody to an office and then the officer whom you have sent to, you didn't know that the officer is on leave for 7 days. And if your person who is directed to go and fetch the feedbacks, he sits there for 1 hour and then he comes back because the boss was not there, it makes no sense. It is a total time wasted of yours as well as your own persons. If that person would have found out that okay, the person whom he is supposed to meet is out of station for 7 days, who is next authorized? Then he should make all attempts to meet him and get his feedback. If he finds protocol wise that person is not authorized, then your action is going to be send him 7 days after. This is the right direction. So direction when you are giving, this is a good people skill. Direction does not mean you order and ultimately expect a result. All these are generally not taught and really cannot be taught. It just somehow comes in within your mind and you start working. So this is a strong people skill. Giving feedback. This is a very funny thing. You are working in a company, an organization, and your immediate supervisor or superior is supposed to give feedback about you to his superior for whatever reason, either for your promotion or your annual reports or whatever. Giving feedback is very, very important thing. It should be very clear, in clear terms. You must know the purpose of the feedback. This is first. I am expecting that you are that superior who is going to give the feedback about your subordinate. I am seeing in that perspective now. You must know that the form or the format that has come to you is asking for a feedback of your junior, and the junior's career, junior's promotions, junior's opportunities, his impressions, everything depends on your feedback. And the feedback that you give makes a lot of difference. So the people skill is how do you give the feedback? Quite often in some organizations, they hesitate to give right feedbacks because they know usually in many of the companies it is a confidential report we call CR. In the confidential report you are supposed to get the feedback, but I will tell you very frankly, nothing is confidential. It is called CR, but still nothing is confidential. And nowadays with all our RTIs and all that, nothing remains confidential and should not be. The people skill is this: you talk to the person for whom you are giving the feedback, number one. Number two is you tell him that you have been requested to give a feedback about him. Very difficult situation. Nobody wants to know that you are giving your impression about me. Nobody wants, So the thing is, but you tell him. So if you know the purpose, then you should also know the purpose and tell the purpose to the person. If it is called CR, then you are of course handicapped. But the thing is, if you really want a feedback, then know the purpose and tell the purpose to the person that, look, I have been requested to give a feedback about you. Then try to be honest and transparent in telling what is the strength of the person and what's the limitation of the person. If you tell the person's strength first, then he becomes elated, and then you add your negatives, weaknesses. But if you start with the weakness, this will be a poor skill, I would say poor people skill. The thing is, what you do is you give you give your feedback saying, look, I have been given an opportunity to give a feedback about you. You are good in this, you are good in this, you are good in this. So I am writing all these things good. He will appreciate, he will also encourage you. If there is certain things which you have not noticed, but he has really done it, then he will add. He will say, I have also done this, I have also done this, I have also done this. Good. So please add it if you have an opportunity. This is a very positive way of giving feedback. But don't forget to mention the weaknesses also. You say, okay, these are the set of positives or your strengths I am going to highlight, but there are small negatives or weaknesses which you have, which I am also bound to write. Since I am responsible for giving the right feedback, these are the weaknesses I am seeing in you. I am writing this now, but that does not mean that is going to impede your growth or prospect, but you try to improve on this. But if you don't say that, the person for whom you are giving the feedback, he does not know what's his weakness. In fact, I will tell you, as encouragement is required, also expression of the weaknesses of the persons are also equally important. So giving feedback is a very tricky skill, and feedback which is superficial, less discreet, slightly fuzzy or vague makes no sense. And such kind of feedbacks if you give, I will tell you, nobody will tell you personally that your feedback was not of any use, because it did not speak about the person properly, and you made a very superficial statements, and like say beating around the bush in the situation, you did not really say exactly what is what. So your feedback is meaningless. Dump it to the dustbin. It will happen. I know many situations where people, when they write recommendations for others, see, quite often students come to us for recommendations for admission to the foreign university, or to write for some exams or for testimonials. In such cases, if you write a recommendation which is very superficial, not very discreet, not highlighting exactly the positives, also not highlighting what's negative, that recommendation has no value. So giving feedback is a very important skill one should possess. So when you give the feedback, structure it yourself. You first structure it. Very simple structure are two things. One is strengths and weaknesses. There is a third component, the prospect of improvement. That means you first write all the strengths, then you write all the weaknesses of the person, and then the areas where he can be improved, or the areas which is not within his domain of work but has given positive benefits to the company. That is also another. So make a very clear researched structure for feedback. Leadership is one which guides everybody, guides the team, takes it forward. whether it is physically going, like say on war, or in march pasts. All right, but the thing is, leadership is when you are having business, when you are having communications, when you are having workshops, when you are having conferences, when you are leading a class. The leadership is basically that skill which is going to have all positive skills by which you command a good respect of everybody, and you make sure that people are going to follow your instructions the way you want. Not everybody cannot be the leader. Maybe that everybody is born with some leadership skill, but the thing is, ultimately, by virtue of either experience or exposure, people may lose the leadership skills. Leaders are, people say, are leaders born? But the thing is, leaders are not born really, because leaders are the persons who learn the way of doing things through their experiences. So if suppose a leader is experienced and exposed, then probably he will become a leader. But suppose somebody is not experienced or not exposed at all, he will not be the leader involved. Take one case. Captain of a team, football team. Who becomes the captain? Captain is nothing but the leader. Basically, who leads the whole group. He decides the strategy along with the manager maybe, or maybe a vice captain, but he decides the whole strategy because he is responsible for making the game plan or the strategy of the entire thing. Okay. He becomes a leader because he has been given an opportunity to become leader. He has been selected. And how this leader has been selected? Just like that? No. People have been watching his skills. All those who are captains, all those who are leaders, they are watched. They are under scanner. Selection committee, without letting them know, they are watching these probable leaders. And so your leadership skill is manifested from your earlier days itself. So today you may be a very low rung soldier. In future you might become a leader. I am not talking about such people who by virtue of the age becomes the leader. No, I am not talking about such kind of mechanism. I am talking about the true leader who is likely to lead. Maybe in your school you have one last bencher or backbencher who doesn't appear to be having strong leadership skill. Don't undermine. Maybe at the age of 50 he will become a very good leader because situation has pushed him to such cases when he earned or learned the way of giving leadership. This is how you really look at it in terms of leadership. That means leader means somebody who can guide the whole team, whole group, whole bands, whole armies. This is what is leadership. It's very, very strong people skill. Individually, if somebody is very good, does not mean that he could be a good leader. Managing projects. All these are coming in sequential order in alphabetical form. That's why some are coming a little later maybe. How do you handle a project? It's a people skill, because managing project means you are first taking a physical condition of the situation, the assignments, the team, the objectives, the targets, the finance, the manpower, the machineries. There are so many things involved in it, the time. When you take everything into consideration, every aspect is important in this. How do you handle it? How do you manage it? Managing project does not mean that you become a leader, not necessarily. Managing project is one of the responsibilities that you got, and you are always responsible up to a certain limit. That's why there is a deputy manager, there is a chief manager, there is a manager, there is a such. That means there is a hierarchy. Each manager managing a project, at each level has certain limited domain of his decision making, and then handling the whole stuff. So whenever he is doing it, basically he is managing a project, means he is handling up to the domain that he has been assigned. If he has to go beyond that, if he feels that beyond that something need to be there, then what he does is he takes the permission of the higher authority who is having a more domain of operations. So managing project, if you think assistant manager, deputy manager, manager, chief manager, senior manager, additional chief manager, there are so many such things are given. Basically what are these is, these are nothing but Hierarchically, you have been given a little more responsibility, little higher responsibility, little higher responsibility. But ultimately, it's the same thing. You are managing a project. Since you are handling lots of people skill. But there is one more which have come now, manager management. See, the thing is, you now have a project in which you have multiple arms or multiple domains. So, for each domain there is an expert manager. You require another manager who is now supposed to manage. This is very interesting, and I have found that this is very, very true in large organizations. In large organizations, it's almost like, CEO of a company, he handles many arms. The CEO is responsible for every arm of the business of that particular company. So, he manages the other managers. And again, suppose if you look at it as a tree, that below this you have 3 businesses, of which one business in which you also have different arms like sales, purchase, marketing, production. Each of them will have a manager. That means this is another people skill. When you are supposed to manage the managers, quite often it becomes very sensitive, because everybody is well qualified, well experienced. But one thing, take it very honestly and sportingly, that if you are assigned as a manager for one up to a particular domain, then you must be able to respect the manager who is above you, because your domain is up to this and his domain includes you as well as other domains. So, you cannot really, even if you are more qualified than him, or say lesser paid by him or whatever, or maybe more paid by virtue of your seniority, whatever, don't bother. Take it sportingly that if you are a manager, then you also make yourself manageable by higher managers. That's how the whole thing works. So, it is why these things are being discussed, because they are not very simple and they are not very methodical. They are only intrinsic, internal, means you have to imbibe this and then ultimately practice. Managing difficult conversations. This I am writing here, but I will hold on. I will not talk about these conversations now, because this conversation will come in my next week's lecture in very, very strong terms. But still, it is a people skill when you find the conversation is going in such a level that it's difficult. Then how to handle it, how to control it, how to trim it, how to cut it, how to guide it, or how to wrap it, how to stop it. These are all managing difficult conversations. In fact, I will tell you, managing conversations itself is a skill. How do you manage conversations? Here it is negative, that means difficult conversation you are trying to manage. Basically, we are saying managing is when everything goes on at a time, how do you manage it? And difficult conversation is one which is not good, not healthy. That is why we are writing it here. But I will tell you, even managing conversations, when I will talk about verbal conversation, there you will find that conversations can be of many types, and not all conversations are good. But even if, I will tell you, even if there is a good conversation, but it is eating away your right time or prime time, then managing that conversation is also a good skill. That means how you cut it. An example, let me tell you, a friend has come to you when you are very busy with your work. The friend has come to see you after about a few years. He sits in front of you and keeps on telling you about his own story of the past. But you are very tied up with your time. You don't want to hurt him by saying that I have no time. You want to encourage him to say something, but then the conversation that you are having in between, that has to be curtailed by you. That's a very strong trick. How do you do it? And really, there is nothing like something called right or wrong in this. It is only at that point of time, whatever way you can trim it in such a manner and guide the conversation to such minimal that he finishes his urge of telling you or letting you know what he had been doing in the past and where he stands now. At the same time, he did not eat away your prime time. These are very, very strong and interesting things which we are expecting this will come in different courses of time. So, my suggestion is I will go for further people skills. In all the skills that we are talking about, I have one set of experience, you have another set of experience. All of you, there are so many who are listening to this lecture, have different sets of experience. I don't say that there is a Bible for this. These are basically you try to understand, try to analyze yourself. So when you will go for each one of them individually, as I am explaining to you, you also try to understand yourself and try to analyze yourself. Then you will find that you will find a way out. What is important here is essentially to understand that what are these skills, and in case you find that you are lacking the skills, then my first suggestion is try to improve these skills. And if you find that you have the skills, then I would again say try to respect your skills. Respect your own skill, but don't misuse it. All these skills are good. Let me pick it up from here. Giving directions. Given an opportunity, everybody would like to give directions. So if you have a good skill of giving directions, you can every time you only can keep on giving directions. But if it is you keep on giving directions, you never take directions of anybody, because you are habituated in giving directions is contrary, it's negative. Giving feedback, yes, you have the opportunity, you have the right to give the feedback, but imagine somebody is also taking feedback about you. Then how do you behave? How do you manifest? How do you perform? How do you face it? How do you tackle it? So whenever you are doing all these things, you will find that all these are very, very positive people skill. But mind it that this skill has to be used very, very selectively and cautiously. So skill does not mean that you have been given the authority to do whatever you wish to do the way you want. There are certain code of conducts, there are certain ethics, there are certain decorums, there are certain protocols, there are certain rules and regulations, there are certain norms, social norms. So whatever you do in these kind of cases, people are doing researches on this in several locations, but there's not a set book, there's not one book or maybe a series of books which gives you exactly what is to be done. Only thing is understand the nuances of this and essences of this. This is what I want to share with you. Okay, thank you for today. Again, I'll go further on this. Thank you.